I gotta ask you about Project Blue Book.
Okay.
So were you the director of the program?
Yes.
How long?
4 years.
And what years was that? Was 58 to...
Late 50s, early 60s. Just.
What do you think?
What do I think? I think it was a worthwhile program, and for the reason that, basic reason for, number one, you certainly wanted to be alert to the possibility of them being something that, not necessarily from extraterrestrial sources, but something that could be a threat to our national security. That's good, number one. Number two is that our defense system is right ready, and at any time that they think that there's something that's threatening, they take necessary actions. And consequently, what you want to do is to know that whatever it is that you're looking at is something that really needs to be investigated. In other words, if you get enough signature data that you can give to these people, then they'll trigger the system in a few cases. Because when are you most vulnerable? You're most vulnerable after you deploy your system. We got all these airplanes. Up goes off, looking to see what the hell it is that's there. Now he's got to go back home, refuel, do all the other things that are necessary in order to be yet ready again. So I think from that standpoint, very much so. And also, that other thing, yes, there is a possibility of there being life elsewhere. To me, a high probability that there's life elsewhere. But I also would say this: I don't know of anything that we have ever recovered in one of these that would say that we are dealing with life from another planet or an intelligence, under the intelligence direction of something from another planet.
Well, speaking to an astronaut or two,
yes,
and I asked the similar sort of questions, and they, their position is there's just billions and billions of other galaxies. So even if the chance is very, very, very teeny, you multiply times billions and billions, well, that makes real,
I'm agreeing with them.
Yeah.
To that extent. Yeah. I'm agreeing with them. But what I am saying is that we do not have, to my knowledge, anything that would support the fact that, yes, this is where it came from. It's from Mars. It's from wherever. We don't have any of that.
Let's go back to the very first thing that always everybody goes back to, that whole thing at Roswell. Did you ever study that at all and look into that whole Roswell thing and Max Brazil and...
I, once again, have a personal opinion about it. I think it was really a broken arrow. I think that this is just a case of where one of our devices fell out of the airplane.
Well, the broken arrow, though, to me always means atomic weapons that have been...
Yes, right.
But I thought it was supposed to be a Project MOGUL or something like that, which was a balloon that had been deployed that had burst in the air or something like that.
Oh, no. The only thing that I could say is this. It does seem strange to me that if we were recovering bodies or ship from Earth, why in the world did we get two pilots to fly an airplane out from Wright Patterson Air Force Base, munitions center at that time, to pick up whatever it was and bring it back for analysis? If you had bodies, there was a hospital right there in Texas that's used for burn center. Why didn't you take them there?
Well, that whole business about an other saucer with bodies on it only appeared in the last 10 or 15 years. Before that, it was always just the picture of the major, whatever his name was,
Yes.
holding some mylar, it looked like.
Well, they said the same thing. When a person tells you something, you have to add. I hate to be rhetorical, but that's the only thing I can do. For instance, he says, we tried to burn it, we tried to cut it, we tried to do all these things, right? So I said, well, where did you get the sample?
Yeah, yeah.
You can't do it, you can't break it, you can't do it, but you got a sample. Yeah, a sample in your hand. Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Somebody, somehow, somewhere. So that part of it.
It
was very difficult for me to because whenever I had the program, when I was running the program, we used all of the resources that were specialized as much as possible. For instance, when people came down with this guy with the pancakes, I sent those to Food and Drug Administration. Got a big lab up there. They know all about food. Here, what is this? You take it. You got to tell me what it is. And the same thing with material. If we have material, Wright Patterson, best material lab going, right?
So
and we were number 3 on their priority list, behind those things that aircraft accidents, those things that were damaged in battle. And
so what was the story about the pancakes?
Well, this fellow had been isolated for a long time by weather conditions and so forth. And when he first got a chance to go into town, he brought with him these cakes, and he told people that a spaceship had landed at his house and that they had exchanged these pancakes for water. What does that mean? That's a key point to me, was the water, for water. These guys needed water. In case, how in the world did they ever take off on a flight that long and bring enough water? How? I admit, you guys said, but the way to me is.
Did you ever?
I hate to ask questions. I think the program should have been continued, but I think it should continue just because of the faint possibility, and that one day, soon, sometime, we'll get something that would indeed let us be able to say positively, yes, this is life somewhere else. Is there life somewhere else? Like I said, probabilities are out of this world. Not meaning to be rhetorical, but that's what I think.
Did you ever meet any of these people? Actually talk to them yourself?
I talked to many of the people who have said things, and we had some. We had one lady that sued the Air Force because she said that they didn't warn her sufficiently to stay away from the vicinity of one of these things, and she had been exposed to it, and what it had done to her. It killed her dog and all that.
But they've never found anything, right?
I never have seen anything. The evidence of things else, I don't know. I would say that it was not in the right hands after the discovery has been made. Let me explain. The Air Force is responsible for making sure, hey, in real time, that's a threat. It's not a threat. That's the Air Force job.
Well, that's what they were doing.
And that's what they were doing. But all of the follow-on for those things, the analyses and so forth, that's what Blue Book was. Blue Book would say, okay, it wasn't a threat. Now what is it? And that's what we were trying to do. However, I think that something like DARPA, defense organizations to look into new things, new possibilities. For instance, all of these things may very well be nothing more than instances where we could have been aware that there's going to be something that is more earthbound, like, say, a tsunami, you know. Why, maybe this is something that lets us know that there's something we better watch out for, or something we better take care of. You know, I say, we keep looking this way, maybe we ought to need to look the other way some too.
Well, there certainly are a lot of things that are in the sky that are unidentified.
Oh, without doubt. Don't get me wrong now. I'm thinking that everything that these people see, for the most part, there are instances where the stories are pushed up a little bit, but I think that any experience that a person reports is either a real experience or is a real mental experience.
But how about the people that claim to have been abducted? Like was it the
yes,
Hills?
I know there have been several, and there was Adamski right here in Los Angeles was one of the guys that said he had such a long ride on a spacecraft.
Did you ever meet him?
No, I have never met him. I'm not sure he's alive, but he had a little operation up by Mount Palomar.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he reported that his experience was he was returning from back east on a train, and the train stopped, and who knows, in the middle of the desert, and everybody was out worrying about why did the train stop? Train people don't know, just train stopped. And he was meanwhile walking away, and he came up on these individuals who said, "You're the chosen one, you're the one that's going to bring the message to the people that we exist." Train went out, he went on to this thing, and they gave him a ride back, and he was looking, he could read the marquees, he said, in Times Square, and from like thousands of miles, by looking through their devices, and they brought him back, and he had proof, because he had an unused train ticket. That was his, but he was attracted the attention of a lot of people. Queen Juliana, she asked that he be brought over there and that he give her a private audience on it.
Really?
Yeah. So he's, I mean, read his book. Yeah, he put it. There was another one out here too. He said that he had talked with Christ, and he picked up sand from the footprints that Christ left as he walked across the desert, and he was selling these things. And we say, hey,
but didn't somebody in the Bible say that Christ walked and he didn't leave footprints?
I know, that's right. I said, see, people believe that. Hell, if he could walk on water, he'd go on water. But yeah, but it's the kind of things that the people wanted to believe in. That's their right. They want to believe it. Fine.
I just think it's fine.
It's just. Please don't ask me to agree with you.
I watched sometimes I watch those UFO shows, and I think the most common word is probably, well, then there's maybe and could be. And one time I saw him, and the guy was talking about, he lived a little north and east of Phoenix. And he said, you know, boy, some nights you'll look out on the horizon to the west and you'll see these bright lights and they're there and they move around and then they fall out of the sky and they move around all the time. Now this guy's lived there for 20 years. You know what that is? That's night bombing at the Gila gunnery range is what that is. Those are just flares. But now the guy, he's got to know that after all this time.
Well, you believe what you want to. You know, it is, and I know that right now, you know, they're looking at something called warp science. And
warp science?
Warp science,
What's
yes.
that?
Well, in other words, it's really and truly talking about proof more about what is the real shape of things.
I've never heard that one before.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's anything. I mean, I just had to ask you about Blue Book. I mean, I think it's.
Oh, sure.
I agree with
Yeah.
you. In fact, you've added a little bit to it.
Well, I know one thing. I'd be a very rich man if I could say, I know.
Well, a lot of people are getting rich on it, I think, or making money by
Yes.
all this fictitious
Yeah.
stuff. But you know, we have a family friend who lives up in near Detroit, and she said one time she was coming home with her children, and right over their house was this gigantic black white flying saucer sitting right over their house. These are real down-to-earth
Yeah.
people, you know, that said they saw this, and their daughter said the same thing.
Yeah. I believe that. But you know, sometimes experience that a person has plays a big part in it. On one case I was investigating, the guys would swear that they saw this thing and it moved and it did this and it did all these kinds of things out there, you know. As they rode down the road through trees, they could see it follow them and so forth. So they had the kid with them, you know, not talking. So I talked to the little girl, she's like about 10, 11 years, and I said, honey, did you see it? She said, I saw the moon.
Well, I've had a lot of people ask me if I ever saw a flying saucer, and we were flying south in Germany, myself and my the other pilot in a F4. I'm in the back seat, and we're flying on the left wing of another F4. We're going due south, and I'm flying the airplane, and I'm sitting there holding my position. And I looked back at the instruments just to kind of see the direction I was going, and I saw a bright white light. And then I kept flying, you know, just flying along. It was a beautiful night, really clear. Crystal clear. A few minutes before I'd had the cockpit lights off, I was just looking straight up, and you could see billions of stars, you know.
Yes,
So anyway, I'm flying south on the wing, sitting there flying along, and I looked over again, and now it's closer, and it's right exactly at the same spot. And then I look back again, and I see it's now, you know, crescent shaped, and I say to the other guy in the other cockpit, "Hey Max, you know, it's like a flying saucer is joining up on us, you know." And I look back again, and just as I said, "Hey Max," I realized it was the moon coming up.
A what?
The moon.
Yeah, good. Sure.
Just
sure.
the top of the moon, brilliant white, you know.
Well, you know, that's clear. Very few people have seen that, but they like to see it. They call it flash, and they have it for the sun and the moon.
Yeah.
And just like they, for instance, we read the Bible, and I see a lot of things. In fact, when I was in the Air Force, that's what I went out and bought the biggest unabridged Bible I could, because I have so many stories, you know, like Ezekiel, you know, Parhelia. I'm sure it's Parhelia. Does that mean that there's no Christ? No. It just means that he used that means to pass a message to somebody that he wanted to reach. So the capability of Parhelia is real.
Parhelia. I've never-
Parhelia or Paraceline, but when it's the moon, with the moon. And what happens is it's duplicated. In other words, you look up at the sun and you'll see the sun here.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the way Ezekiel described what he saw.
Oh. I've never heard.
So I said, yeah, sure. Parhelia.
Well, I'm going to turn this off because I'm getting tired of
Okay.
your not. You seem to be